think we're live on YouTube now. It is 6 p.m. I will call the city council meeting to order. This is Thursday, May the 14th, 2020. And due to the state of emergency, 61-826, this meeting is being held video teleconference. Now, it is 6 p.m. I will call. Don't know what that was.
What?
You have an agenda. I'll call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask Danny to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and you can see the flag behind me. Danny?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Frank will lead us in an invocation.
Okay. Father in heaven, we want to thank you for your grace and mercy during this pandemic. We're thankful again to be servants of this community. Be with us as we tend to the business of the people. Please give us wisdom to make the right decisions for this community. But most of all, forgive us of our many sins. Amen.
Man.
Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Michael Case,
Here.
Doug Gibson,
Here.
Danny Laster,
Here.
Frank McReynolds,
Here.
George Orr,
Here.
David Powell. Okay.
I would go ahead and note that we also have Jeff Trauber, our city attorney. We have joining us our chief of police, Robert Toombs, and our public works director, Chris Orr, on our conference tonight. You have a copy of the minutes of our last meeting on April the 30th, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections that need to be made to the minutes? None. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I think that was moved by Michael Case,
Second.
second by Danny. Is there any discussion on those minutes? If not, we'll call the roll.
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, item 6 on your agenda is approval of the bills payable and the financial report. You received in the initial information, bills payable and financial report, and then you got some additional pages. Are there any questions concerning the bills payable and the financial report? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Frank, second by Mr. Doug. Any discussion? If not, Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 7 is the second reading of ordinance 2020-03. Is there a motion to read the summary?
So moved.
Moved by Danny to read the summary. Seconded by
Second.
Michael Case.
There he is.
Any discussion on the motion to read the summary? If not, all those in favor, well, I can't do that. I forgot. Laura, call the roll, please.
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr.
Aye.
All right, the motion carried. Laura, would you read the summary, please?
It's City of Elkton ordinance number 2020-03, an ordinance enacting and adopting the 32nd supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Elkton, Kentucky. Summary of ordinance. Said ordinance adopts by reference the 32nd supplement to the Elkton Code of Ordinances as submitted by American Legal Publishing Corporation. The ordinance does not impose a tax, fee, or penalty. A copy of the full text of said ordinance is available for public inspection at Elkton City Hall during regular business hours, Monday through Friday.
Okay, you've heard the second reading. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance on second reading?
Motion.
Moved by Danny,
Second.
seconded by Doug. Is there any discussion on the ordinance? If not, Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr,
Aye.
David Powell. Absent.
Motion carried. Item 8 is on the agenda is closure of Commerce Street to through traffic. Michael Case wanted that on the agenda. Michael?
Sure. So a while back, we voted to approve the rezoning for the project out there, building apartments. And we also voted unanimously in favor of having the builder put in a row of trees there and to physically separate the streets, Be White Road and Commerce. And I just think it's now time. They're sort of built. Some more construction going on, I'm sure, but I think it's now time to begin the formal process of closing the road through traffic. And I know that the mayor and some of the utility people have put out cones and they've been moved back and forth, and just wanted to see about go ahead and get this formalized.
Okay, following that, I asked our attorney about the process of closing the road. That are the streets that we would need to go through. Jeff, would you cover that, please?
I will. State statute provides that cities are only authorized to close a city street, alley, any sort of roadway by KRS 82.405. And that essentially says that there must be consent of anybody that would be that adjoins the section of the road that would be closed. So even if you are just dead ending a passway where that dead end occurs, anyone who abuts that dead end would have to consent to it. So I have that form. I can prepare the consents that would be necessary. I can look at the PBA records and make sure that we get everybody identified that needs to be identified. And I can circulate that, but it would take that consent. Absent the consent of all the adjoining property owners, it does take a circuit court action. So depending on whether or not consent can be obtained, we could look at the next step after that.
Okay, so I think we would need a motion to proceed with the process.
So moved.
Michael's moved that we proceed with the process. Is there a second?
Second.
With Frank.
Okay.
Is there a discussion on the motion to proceed?
The only discussion that I would ask for is that, just so I'm clear on the proceeding being the first stage of that, of seeking to obtain the consents that would be necessary. I would assume that before we went anything further, such as a litigation in circuit court, that you would want me to come back and report to the council.
Yeah. I would interpret that the meaning. Is that right, Michael?
Yes.
To proceed with the consent first? Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, Laura, would you call the roll on the motion to proceed with the consent part of closing the road?
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item 9 on the agenda is noise ordinance. Michael asked that be placed on the agenda. Michael?
All right, so I read it, and basically in my neighborhood, we've been having some issues with noise, and had been in discussion with the chief of police and the city attorney, or the city's attorney. And I think that our existing ordinance is basically good. Jeff may have some suggestions for changing it. I'm not exactly sure, but I just would like to add in the definition of motor vehicle, recreational vehicle. I'd just like to add that in there so that this would apply not only to registered up and down the road vehicles, but also any sort of recreational vehicle being used in the city.
Yeah, and I can look at that ordinance and see what updates it may need. Michael and I did talk about that today, so I'm happy to prepare an amendment that includes that recreational vehicle. In the meantime, I think it does work to address the noise issue that may be going on. I'll get with the police department. I think I already have with one of the officers maybe, and talked about what they may need to do as far as investigation, putting together some statements, things like that, so that we could address that noise issue in that area, in every area.
Just a fun fact from having read it, it's a good ordinance. I think it's a very old one because there's a section on phonographs. So if anybody's playing their Victrola too loud, watch out.
Some of those are coming back in vogue, Michael.
I know that. I brought that up. I think 2019 more vinyl was sold than CDs or something like that.
Chief, I would like to point out when we talk about the noise ordinance that the particular concern that Michael's talked about, we have worked on. The chief in our police department's been in that area more than once, working on that noise. I would also point out that as we talk about the noise ordinance and maybe update it, we have had few complaints throughout the city with other types of noise, whether that be automobile or parties or other things. So as we look at this noise ordinance, we may want to look and see if there's some other areas that need to be addressed to address those areas. And I will point out to the council that when we do get a noise complaint, we do check them. The one thing I try to tell citizens, and the chief and I have talked about this, if someone calls us out to noise and we get there and there's no noise, there's not much we can do about it. And the other thing is, a lot of our citizens, when we address noise, they want the council and the police department to address it, but they really don't want to get involved. So that adds some difficulty in trying to enforce the noise ordinance regardless of how we write it. But we'll ask, without any dissent, we'll just ask Jeff to work on some possible amendments to bring back at a later meeting. Is that all right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say a lot of things are addressed in here. Laura sent it to me and I started going through it thinking that we would need to add a lot of things, but it seems to be sound and, like exhaust on trucks without mufflers and that sort of thing is already addressed. It's just a matter of figuring out how to enforce it, I think.
Well, and I also like to point out to people when they talk to me about noise is somewhat based on what you think is noise and what someone else doesn't think is noise. And that's one of the hard parts with the ordinance. George and I talked the other day, if you start up your motorcycle, you might like to listen to that, but your neighbor might not. So what's noise? So we have to kind of walk that fine line in some areas when we enforce it, but I'm glad we're going to take a look at it and see what we need to do. Any other comments about the noise ordinance? Again, if you look at that or you need a copy, it is on our Facebook, our city site. You can look at it, but if you need a copy, we'll get you a copy. If you got some recommendations or concerns, be sure and express those to us or to Jeff, and we'll try to make sure those get incorporated.
Mayor, the only thing I'll add to that is that yes, with the subjective issues of a noise complaint, understanding that, Chief, if you get complaints and can investigate that and get some witness statements and present those, I will prosecute those just as I would anything that you present. So, but I know that subjective criteria is going to make it tough, but if you can pin it down, then I'll certainly move forward on it.
Absolutely. And I knew that you would. As you're stating, it's kind of subjective and kind of it takes an in-depth investigation a lot of times.
And that's understandable. There is some information in here, such as if you can plainly hear what's going on 50 feet away across the property line, that being an issue. And that's, I guess, a better, something you can quantify better than just, I don't like what's going on at my neighbor's house, back and forth.
Well, and also with the ability to so quickly record, either by a cell phone or other devices, a lot of times those are tools these days. So if we could do anything like that to add to a case, then I'd certainly move forward on it.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Item 10 is Police Department report. We got our Chief of Police on. I wanted to update you on the car situation and any other things he has to report. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the two vehicles we purchased, the 2014 Dodge Charger and the 2017 Ford Explorer, are doing well. The 2014 Dodge Charger, you may have already seen it. It's already in service. There was a petition donated by the Logan County Sheriff's Department, and one of the detectives and myself put that in at the Logan County Sheriff's Department facility, and they donated that. That was very generous of them. So it allowed us to go ahead and put that vehicle on the road as a police car. The only thing it's missing is the striping package, of course, but of course that takes some time to make and ship to us, and we'll have that put on as soon as it does. The 2017 Ford Explorer that we purchased for me, it's still sitting on the side lot. I'm not driving it as of right now because I'm waiting for the company that's going to put the lights and stuff in it that I took out of the other Explorer that we took off of out of service. I'm gonna put those lights in it, and they're gonna give me a date of when I can bring it, and that's when I'll utilize that vehicle. I don't see any need into right now, because with me still answering calls and things of that nature, I need a vehicle with the equipment in it, so I'm still driving what I have. As far as the Explorer that we took out of service, the one that was using oil, it's still using oil. We've added oil to it today. However, it's doing okay for the use of code enforcement. The code enforcement officer, she's using it, and the air works, the power works on it and everything. The only thing it does do is use oil, and it's using it at a pretty good rate, but it's like I told her, she don't use gas very much traveling. So I guess you could say that the oil is costing what the gas would normally cost anybody else, but we're using it. The old Blazer that we've been using, it's setting now. It's probably not going to be used anymore for that type of service. But the only other thing else I have to add, or don't have to add, but I want to add, is the call volume. We have increased our routine patrols due to the COVID-19 crisis. The last 2 months, and I'm giving you last month's because I didn't give to you the last council meeting, we've had 979 calls. But that's because 678 of those is ones that we stepped up because we needed to do routine patrols in areas that needed more. It didn't have anything to do with the COVID-19, but due to burglaries and thefts and things of that nature, we've stepped up. We've had 7 total alcohol-related calls for the city of Elkton. And that's pretty much all I have to add. I'm more willing to answer any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions for the chief? I will report that our police department and the sheriff's department will be involved tomorrow with a parade that's supposed to be coming through the county and the city for the seniors. So if you're out and about Elkton, I don't know, somewhere maybe 12 o'clock, chief?
It's going to start, they're going to line up at 1:15. They're leaving North Todd Elementary, and I've been told at exactly 1:30.
Okay.
And they're going to travel through. They should be in Elkton around on the square, I would say around 1:45. They're going to travel west to the middle school. They're going to circle the middle school. They're going to come back up to the square, head south to South Todd Elementary. They're going to circle South Todd Elementary, come back and end at the high school, where I think there is some type of service. It may be a church service, I'm not sure of that, that's going to provide them with meals somewhere on around the Board of Education. And that's where the parade will end. But I think they're supposed to be in Elkton, according to the officer that's leading it, at 1:45.
Okay. I'm glad you corrected. I thought it was earlier than that. Thank you.
I did too at first, but I've got confirmation today.
So if you're around town, you may want to stand around and cheer for these seniors. They're all, a lot of families and folks are kind of discouraged that they can't have the normal graduation. Any questions for the chief? If not, we'll go to item number 11 on your agenda. Item 11 is the automated water meter equipment bids. I hope you got a email update today. As you know, for the last several months, our utility department's been out checking meters and checking water leaks and trying to verify some situations we've had. We opened bids on April the 28th, and we received 3 bids. Those bids were one of them for $198,331, one for $201,993, and the third bid for $231,095. And Chris is on tonight. Chris has done a lot of work, a lot of leg work, a lot of phone calls, a lot of investigation about our water meters. And I'm gonna just kind of cover our recommendation, and then I'm gonna let Chris talk about anything he wants to talk about. And this recommendation is our recommendation. We all kind of agree this is the direction we need to go. If you will look, our recommendation is to approve Core and Main base bid for radio read meters. This bid is approximately $3,650, $54.24 above the low bid of Allied Utility. Both companies bid meters that are equivalent. The Camstrup Allied meters and the Badger Core Main meters, but the warranty on the accuracy of the meters is different. And our recommendation is based on this warranty of the meters. The warranty provided by Core and Main distinguishes their bid over the warranty of Allied Unity. Allied meters, which is the Camstrup, are warranted for 20 years for accuracy for the first 10 years. But the second 10 years of their meters, they decrease their warranty from 20% all the way up to 90% for what we would have to pay for a replacement meter. And if we look at Core and Main meters, the Badger meter, they're warranted for 20 years for accuracy with a 100% replacement. And I'm gonna stop right there a minute and let Chris talk about that bid. Chris?
Okay, as the mayor was saying, there's no doubt in our mind that Core and Main, the bid they gave, it's a meter that we've been looking at for a while. And as far as the warranty, that's a big concern we've got right now because the meters that are failing are right at about 10 years old. And they didn't have that accuracy warranty. And so we're sitting here a decade in ready to replace again. The advantage of the Core and Main meter is it's not prorated after 10 years. It's got a 20-year full warranty on the accuracy. So if that were the case at the moment, that would be taking care of us for another decade with not having to worry about the replacement. And the reason we were looking at, of course, the water loss getting up, but also we've tested multiple meters and a lot of them, 3 out of 4 of them would end up failing on the low, as far as the flow, registering 0, and some of them on medium flow as low as 60%. So we've had several large meters that literally are right at 80% at high flow locations, like a car wash. So the thing is, so we know they're failing, but we have to make sure this time along that we make sure we have a warranty that can take care of us possibly longer than a decade. So we're confident this will go a long ways. There's a lot of other advantages to this one as well. It's got a defect warranty as well. It's got 20 years versus the competition's got 2 years. So if there is a defect that shows up later in the years, it's actually covered for the full life of the meter. So I think this is a good route. As far as doing the different options for the customers, I think what we came down with will give everybody an option to select what is going to work best for them as far as for that individual or business.
And we have checked meters, and what we've been doing Danny, you know, we talk about water loss a lot.
Definitely.
Trying to figure out what about water loss, and we've discovered meters where water's running, but the meters are not detecting the flow. We're at a point where we know we're not recording accurately the amount of water that's being used. And in some cases, we're not even being able to record the fact that we know there's leaks taking place because they're not being recorded. Now, we bid two types of meters. One was basically our radio read meters that we have radio read meters. But we looked at an option for cellular. And I guess Chris and I both would say if we really thought we had the money and had the ability, we'd say cellular was the total way to go. But we're not recommending that because even to go that way would be on a yearly basis, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $96,000 extra for us to manage those operations, and we can't do that. But what we would like to further recommend, and the sheet tells you that, is to give our customers an option if they want to do that. But we're recommending with this that we provide the alternate bid for core and main and offer it to our customers if they want to pay the difference. Now, why would they want to pay the difference? And what would be the advantage? The advantage of cellular is if, and I'm gonna pick on Michael. Michael's the youngest. He's the technology person of our group.
Don't worry, I'm going to pick on you back based on this recommendation. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Now you have to listen through it all the way. We've got a better plan here. You'll like it.
That if our customer wanted to go to a cellular meter, that they could get an app that would allow them to read their water usage every day from home. The cellular would also allow our customers, and one that Chris and I talked about a lot was the high school meters. A lot of times they've got water running or a leak running, but nobody knows it from the meters. If they had cellular, they could check their meters on a daily basis to see what their water use is. And if these meters are running 24 hours a day, you would also receive a text message that tells you that your meters are running. So if your building shut down and there shouldn't be any water running, this would tell you that. Now, the cost of that upgrade would be about $30 for a one-time fee. And the cellular cost for those meters right now would be 83 cents a month. So if we offered that to our customers, and they chose to do that, then for an initial fee of $30 and then 83 cents a month, then they would have the ability to read their meter from home and know what their meters were doing. If we were going to give that offer, we would need to know as soon as if we approve moving forward, giving them probably about 30 days in order to get our orders together. This would have to be agreed upon by the landowner, the person who owns the meter, not the renter, because this would be a permanent cellular cost from this point on to do that. And those are the two recommendations we have concerning these water meters. The other is we would, since we've talked before about using some bond sales through KLC and the bond sales, and we'd be proposing that this is a direction we would be going to try to finance the project. Are there questions concerning the recommendation for me or Chris?
You're saying it's a $30 one-time fee?
If you wanted to go to the cellular, and the difference is all our current meters and the new meters would be radio read meters. So there's what they call an endpoint that would have to be added to a meter in order for it to be read cellular. And that additional cost with the endpoint and probably the need to change out some covers on the water meters is actually more than $30, but our proposal is to charge $30. And then there is a monthly cellular cost that the company charges us to be able to read that. So what I'm saying, Danny, is if you wanted to have that cellular option, there'd be a one-time $30 fee, and then there'd be an 83-cent charge per month in order to utilize that app.
Okay.
So Danny, so in other words, and I've got a long list of different leak adjustments, sewer adjustments over the years. And in a lot of cases, there's customers that their bill went up $30, so they don't call City Hall. They don't want an adjustment or anything because, you don't want to take that 5-year adjustment over a tiny leak. But so in this case, even though it's just a $30 increase that one given month, if you decide to do the cellular, basically it's a price difference between us buying you a drive-by endpoint and the cellular endpoint. They both have transmitters, but one's cellular, one's drive-by. So that difference is right at $20. So since everyone else is just getting the standard drive-by, if you want that upgrade and you feel like that would be an asset to you, then you would pay that additional 20 and about 10 to replace your meter lead to go from metal to plastic so that it would transmit properly. And then the 83 cents, it's actually 89 cents per month for the cellular, but all the other customers are getting the drive-by 6 cents per endpoint that goes in your bill. So we take that off the 89 cents, it'd be 83 additional. So you would pay that indefinite from there on. And what you would get with that, you would have an app that you could choose to look at. It'll read it approximately 4 times a day, so it's real current as far as your use. But not only that, if you never looked at that app, you would automatically, because you would have your information in there, let's say just one day in the afternoon, you haven't looked at the app for weeks. If you had a leak for 24 hours straight, it recorded that would actually send you an email to you to notify you immediately. So even if City Hall wasn't even open on the weekend, it would send an email to you if you were off on a trip to let you know Saturday afternoon it was running the last 24 hours. So then you could address that. And so basically after that $30 initial, you're paying about $10 a year for insurance in a sense. So you won't have property damage, a large bill. And so if anyone's had a leak, they realize, hey, that $10 would go a long ways. And so, and that would be good for the schools because they've had multiple leaks that the board office would know immediately. Like right now, if they have one building that's not even being used, they could have a leak and not know it for, over a month. And so that'd be a big asset to the business as well as many customers.
And our accuracy would be better for sure then with these new meters.
We're right. As far as the accuracy, that's across the board. So all of them would be ultrasonic meters. So the accuracy is going to be good for everybody, but it's just a matter of how quick you could find out you had a leak. As far as the drive-by, if a person opts just to stay there, they don't want that increased monthly bill or that upfront, then at that point, we're right now we read once a month. So it takes about 4 weeks. We read, we find out there's a problem, then we try to notify you. But even if we read, and we're going to try this, possibly read like weekly, so that then we can, find something to cut off 75% of your possible leak by reading every week instead of waiting each month. So that's still going to help even the customers that choose not to go cellular, but that's just a little bit more protection that they'll be able to see what's going on and it's instantaneous. And so the Beacon network will automatically send that email out the minute that it notices that it's going over the 24 hours. And that's even without office staff having to acknowledge it or anything, even though we'll be notified as well in the office that there was a warning that you had a 24-hour usage.
There's no major meters, is there? No major meters at all, whereas now we've got 2 major meters, correct?
Are you talking about master meters?
Master meters, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as far as our incoming meters, we have 2 master meters. We'll be reading those separately, of course, and those are actually supplied by Logan Todd. So they maintain those, the main meters that come in. They test those annually to make sure they're accurate.
This is not for everybody. I mean, this is just the ones that wants it.
That's exactly right. And that's the reason we opted that route. So if you don't feel that that's going to be, any benefit to you whatsoever, you haven't experienced any leaks, you just don't feel like it's really worth that additional $30.83 a month, then you can choose to not sign for that. We'll give you just a drive-by endpoint. You'll still receive a new meter, all meters will be replaced, but you won't have that extra 83 cents if you don't see a benefit in it. But for the people that do see that as a benefit, or businesses, and want to be able to, watch their usage or know there's a leak in 24 hours, versus over a month, then they can choose to do that. So it's strictly up to that customer whether they would like it.
I think that would be a good thing because you got so many older houses here with old water lines and stuff that's, it's just got to be. If they get a leak in them, a lot of times before it gets to the top of the ground, you done got a $200 or $300 water bill.
It does, and this is $10 a year. And for landlords, if they actually have it, they can be on that beacon service as well. So if their renter moves out and they leave the spigot running all over the house, they know in 24 hours instead of a month after we read it and find out they left and it's flooded at the house. So it'll be an asset to many people. But like you said, if they don't feel like it's going to benefit them, they can choose not to sign up for that, and they'll just get the regular endpoint.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions?
Will this project be enforced by the end of the year, or how soon will this project begin?
Well, what we have been told, Mr. Frank, is that once we have, the council approves it and we signed a contract, they have said we could have meters within a month. And we have discussed if we had meters in hand, we could have all new meters in place within 3 months. We think sooner than 3 months, but, and then as the information states, part of that may depend on when the company can help us with software and a little training. But we really believe that if once we get the meters in, that probably within 4 to 5 months, all of this would be in place. So I guess to say, would we be done by the end of this fiscal year, calendar year? The answer would be yes.
Okay, all right.
That would help our water loss for sure then, wouldn't it, Mayor?
Well, Danny,
Small indication.
if this don't solve our water loss problem mainly, we're all going to be out digging up lines.
That's right.
And I would, while we're talking about water loss, to add that, when we started over, I don't know, say maybe the last 3 months, trying to really address water loss and checking meters, we found a lot of places where they've been fixed. But we've also located these places where our meters weren't reading like they should have been. And then we started testing meters and finding out that our meters were failing to be accurate. And the reality of most of our meters are not failing to be accurate in the sense of they're reading too high. The problem is they're just not reading on low ends and a lot of other places. So there's no doubt about it. We're going to address a lot of our water loss. And if we know that our meters are running accurate, then it's going to help us concentrate on these other areas that Chris and the crew have been mapping out and going across town. You probably wasn't out, but they've been out several nights, late at night, running equipment, sound equipment, trying to find those leaks in order to deal with these problems. But that's what got us looking at meter replacement from the point of we need to do something now because we found out we had so many failing. And as Chris has already mentioned, we're at that 10-year mark, that 10, 11-year mark. And when we look at cities are not required to replace our meters unless we want to replace them and they need to be replaced. But if you look at, Chris mentioned the Todd County Water District, they're under Public Service Commission and they're required to change their meters out every 10 years. And so if the Public Service Commission is saying about every 10 years you need to change them out, the industry basically is out there saying in one way or another that about 10-year points you're going to start having a lot of problems. And that's the other reason we recommended Core and Main, because even if we start having problems at 10 years, they've got an accuracy guarantee for 20 years that will help deal with that problem if it comes up.
Thank you. Good job.
is there other questions?
Yeah, I'm ready. I just wanted to say, that the people who live in these houses in Elkton right now are not necessarily the last people who are ever going to live there rather. And I mean, we're here to make decisions. It occurs to me that if we decide that cellular is what we need, we should just do that. I think that it may be short-sighted to buy yesterday's technology and expect for it to last 20 years. I'm hoping to still be around here in 20 years, and utilities have gone that way where you can see what's going on with your meter on an ongoing basis. The meters belong to the city, not to the people who get service through them. If we think they need to be cellular, we should pay the $30 and have them be cellular. That would be my thought.
Well, the problem with saying for us just to pay the $30 is the difference between the radio read. Well, it's actually about $20 between the radio read and the cellular. But if we went to cellular, in order to support the cellular network, that's an additional $8,000 a month
Or per year.
To support that cellular network. So in a year's time, if we went totally cellular, then we're talking about an additional expense to the city of $96,000 a year. And when we looked at this from the beginning, yes, we said we would like to have cellular, but the additional cost of $96,000 a year is going to have to be met somewhere.
And that's 80 something cents a person a month.
It's what it is actually, Michael, with the drive-by, it's 6 cents is what it is for the drive-by, and then the 89 for the actual cellular. And so you're right about $2,000 per year for, there's some additional fees when you do drive-by versus the cellular, just a few additional plus that 6 cents. So you're looking at $2,000 per year for all of the meters that we have currently running right now versus about $10,000 for the cellular. So that's the difference, and that goes on indefinite. And I guess it was that large chunk of cost right there we were looking at, because as far as the actual difference in going the cellular route initially was $13,000 plus some plastic lids and what have you. But it's that ongoing additional $8,000 per year, along with the water tank and various different projects. Just kind of iffy on kind of pushing that out there with that additional cost with all the increases and other things as of right now. But we're hopeful that many might select that as being a good option and choose to have that additional cost under their bill.
You said 8,000, Mayor said 96,000. I'm confused.
I mean, the difference, you go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I know what he said there, but he was aware that it's 89 cents per meter for the actual cellular, and it's the 6 cents for the drive-by. I know that's what he said, but I think he agrees that that's approximately right, about 10,000 per year for the fees versus 2,000 for the drive-by, about 10,000 for the cellular.
Okay.
I just think that will be a regret 12 or 13 years into this, when everybody has cellular and we had this situation where we could have gone with the next thing, and instead we're riding it out for 7 more years based on the wishes of people who may or may not live in those houses anymore. And you have 40% of dwellings in Elkton being non-owner occupied. The landlord might like to see, you might like that information about if there's a leak going on under the house, but the person living there might not want to pay 80 something cents a month. I've never seen the 6 cents we're paying today itemized on my bill. I'm paying it when I pay the bill, but nobody itemizes it for me. I just don't see, that's my opinion,
There's
We looked at the fact that we would, if we chose cellular, in essence, we're looking at a minimum of an 83 cents extra cost per month per citizen. And then there's some other extra costs, and Chris alluded to it. Most of our water meters have metal lids. In order to go cellular, we would need to look at replacing all of those metal lids with plastic lids. And that's going to be in another, what, Chris, $20 to $25 cost per lid?
Right at it, yes. Now, one thing that might, this may help kind of help you realize where we're going as well. Now, in the future, one thing good here, when we're talking about the endpoint, the cellular endpoint or the drive-by endpoint and the meter, okay, the endpoints and the meters are separate. Those are two different pieces. Okay, so your meter has got that 20-year unlimited warranty as far as it goes, okay? At any given time, and I'm not saying to buy an endpoint, that costs nearly $100 an endpoint and not get a good use out of it. You're spending nearly $95,000 on that, okay? But what you can do, let's say 40% of the customers and businesses decide to go ahead and go this route now. They can choose to do that. But 10 years down the road, for example, if the city decided, we've got this many there, it's been working good, then we'd like to move forward to make it completely cellular. Then at that point, you could trade out in 10 years, literally for different endpoints if you chose to advance toward all the cellular, whatever was left. And on the way, let's say 3 years from now, someone that signs on right now, it's $30 plus that ongoing 83 cents from there on monthly. But if they decide to sign on, let's say 2 years from now, it's not going to be the $30. You're going to have to pay the full endpoint price. That would be about $130 based on today's prices. That's a one-time cost, and then you continue to pay that 80-something cents a month from there. So hopefully we'll get additional people adding on as they see the benefit of it, and then we're just not pushing that toward them. So we were looking at a lengthier process of getting it converted over to that.
Questions? Well, we have made a recommendation. We've taken bids. If we want to proceed with our recommendation or another recommendation, we would need a motion to approve to continue on.
Make a motion, we approve, what is it? Cane and Maine,
Core Main.
Core Maine.
Core and Main. Approve the recommendation that you have on your paper. All right, we
Yeah.
have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Is there discussion? If not, Laura, call the roll, please.
Is the motion for just the radio read?
I think if I understand it, Danny's recommendation was the radio read with the further recommendation for citizen selection if they want it.
Correct.
As recommended.
As written. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Michael Case,
Nay.
Doug Gibson,
Yes.
Danny Laster,
Yes.
Frank McReynolds,
Nay.
George Orr.
Yes.
3-2.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 12 on your agenda is water tank inspection report. We wanted to update you on where we've been. The water tank out on Morningside Drive off Allensville Street has been one that's been in discussion for several years, needing repair, and we've known that. Over the last month, we've had both of our tanks inspected with recommendations on both of the tanks. And Chris and I both, we have complete studies on both of those tanks if you want to look at them and where we are. We have some information concerning repairs that would need to be made to the tank on Morningside Drive. And one of our concerns has been for a while that at some point, the exterior of that tank, if it's not painted and kept maintained, would require a complete sanding. It's got lead paint. It would cost environmental issues to come and have that done. And based on our study, and we knew we were getting close to time, we probably need to go ahead and take some action on those tanks. We have some projected numbers for painting the outside of that tank. The study showed that we have some rust on the interior, which needs to be done as well. And what we would like to do, and the estimates of painting the exterior and the interior, though, and a couple of other what's identified as emergency concerns, is somewhere around $106,000. I think we had estimated over the last few years, Laura, 100,000 or something.
Correct.
So what we would like to do is ask permission to bid out having that Morningside Drive tank painted on the outside and inside, and doing some needed repairs to see exactly what the cost would be. And as we said, we have these studies here, and if you want to look through any of them, read all the recommendations. One of the things that Chris and I have talked about is there are several things that are in these inspections that would need to be done, but we will put a plan together and do those in-house over the next several months without having someone else to have to come in and do them. So what we're asking for tonight is authorization to bid this tank. Question?
Just gonna get a bid on them.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is just call for bids to see what it would cost us.
I'll make a motion that we get a bid.
All right, so
I'll
motion.
second it.
Someone second that?
Who second?
I did. George.
All right, discussion. Chris, you want to say anything about that?
Yes, the tank, of course, our Garth tank is currently under contract, so we're in good shape on that. But the Morningside tank, it's been years since we've actually had any actual refurbish as far as the interior, exterior. So it's definitely in need. And the good thing is, after doing this, even though it seems quite frequent, we'll end up getting between 15 and 20 years after you actually refurbish the interior and exterior. So it's been a while, but once we get past this, it'll be hopefully a couple decades before we have to address that again.
Any further discussion? If not, Laura, would you take a vote on the motion?
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr,
Aye. Aye.
okay?
Motion carried. Item 13 is sewer improvement project update. As we met last time, we said that most of our pipe in place work was done. We've got a company in right now who's currently digging up places around town, replacing pipes and other repairs. And again, I think that's going well. We are currently working on contract 2 of this project that would include a new line from the pump station at the high school and some work at the sewer plant. We're currently, Chris has been working with Josh, our engineers, on some of the updates or changes we see in the initial proposal. And our hope is that within maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks, this project will be in a place to be able to take it to bid to see where it may come in. Chris, would you like to comment on some of the things that's going on with this?
Yes, right now, of course, there's quite a few spot repairs they're trying to finish up. Then Robinson will be coming back in here in about a week to do more cured in place, the line between manholes. And then like the mayor said, Josh with GRW, is working on the phase 2. And so we're just wrapping up a few details on that, and he's fixing to submit it to the state just to get the hydraulic approval to run the force main. And then we have a few things to look at there, but that hopefully here within a couple months, it will be ready to go ahead and bid out and get that moving forward.
Any questions concerning the project? One thing I would like to say is to thank Chris and the folks at in our utility department over the last several weeks with checking on the water meters and the tank inspection and working on this. They've been quite busy, and they put in a lot of time and effort in studying a lot of these things for us. And I certainly want to thank them for all that they've been doing to gather the information and get these things done. If there's no questions, we'll go on to item 14. Item 14 is one of those agenda items I just love to talk about, and that's the city lake. Not really. But since we last met and the last conversation we had about City Lake as it related to that structure, back some time ago, the city took action to agree with the state that we would remove the dam at the lake. And we've had several proposals along the way about how to do that. But one of the things that is required is we have to have an engineered design plan for how to take it apart. Now, I'm kind of one of these folks that think I could take a dozer out there and take it apart and wouldn't need an engineered design, but that doesn't work. We've done some investigating with GRW again. Mary Beth Robson was the one that did a study, I don't know, 2 to 3 years ago for the city, and talking with them about what information we have. What needs to be done is we need to have a firm come in to do drilling and sampling. And then from that drilling and sampling, we need to put together the plan how to decommission that dam. That process is going to cost somewhere around $30,000. So what I would like to do is get permission to proceed with getting the engineer work and the plan put together so we can begin the process to doing what the council voted to do, was to take the city lake out. We can't go out there and do any work to start taking it down without an approved plan from the state. Questions?
This is really the only way that we have to do it, isn't it?
We can't begin to take anything down unless we have an approved plan. And without some engineering work, the drilling and sampling done, then we can't do it.
What was the cost again, Mayor?
Well, our estimate cost is somewhere around 25 to 30,000.
Laura, have we got that in the budget?
No, we do not.
We can't sneak it from one area to another to put it over there.
No, it would need to be a motion to amend the budget and approve it.
Is there a plan to bid that out, or do you have somebody in mind to do that work? Or
Well, going back to the people who've worked on it for us, we have an estimate numbers, Michael, from GRW that actually writing the plan would cost somewhere around $7,500. The actual drilling and sampling that would have to be done, the estimate number of that would be about $17,500 in order to do that. So all we have is a number. As I understand it, these are professional services. We wouldn't have to bid it out. I don't know that there's a lot of people out there that's doing drilling and sampling on dams. And the people that we're working with who has already done work with the dam already has some of the information that might be supportive of what we find out with the core drilling.
We still have to get an engineer after we do the core drilling?
Now, the core drilling information is used by the engineer, and that's the 7,500 to put this plan together.
Okay,
So we should have, once this is done, a plan to be able to go out there and then determine how we begin to take the layers off and spillways off in order to do it.
You just need a motion.
I
We-
would need a motion to proceed with this activity.
Okay.
Have we received a directive from the state that we need to be doing this right now?
We don't have to be doing it now, no.
So-
But we still are under order to be having a plan. And because the last plan we were working under has basically come to a standstill, because we're not purchasing or discussing other lands that might be needed, we have no plan at the moment.
But the reason I said that is it doesn't occur to me that there's a strong reason to try to fit it into this budget, that we can't wait till July and have it in the next fiscal year.
I mean, either this budget or next budget, I think you're right. It doesn't, I mean, to say it's got to be in before July 1, that could be correct.
That's a lot of 83 cents.
That was a stab, I think, but we'll take it.
I think that was directed at you, Mayor.
No, it doesn't have to be in this budget. It's just a matter of proceeding and getting things started. Did we get a motion?
Yeah.
I mean, if we started now, it would come out in this year, right? If we don't do anything now, we'd have to start it out in July 1st, right?
Well, we can hold this. I mean, in a couple of weeks, we're going to ask for a meeting, for a budget meeting. We can hold it and put it in the, you know, in the budget. If you approve proceeding the process, we know we need to get it in the budget that we propose, so we don't come back with the budget later and then say, all right, we got a new budget, now let's amend it.
Right. Well, I think it's going to have to be done. So, I mean, if we need to, I think we propose.
All right, do you want to move a motion that we add this to the new budget?
Yes.
Okay. We have
second,
a motion, a second by Doug, that we add this project into the new budget. Any further discussion? If not, Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Michael Case,
Won me over. Aye.
Doug Gibson,
aye,
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
and George Orr.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on with that project. It's been around longer than some of us have been alive, Michael. Item 15 is really more of an information item. It says light poles on West Main Street. There was a question came up again about the poles that are at the post office and the Mexican restaurant. As you know, going by there, the owner of that property has been making improvements and going to be doing some things to the area out front. And the question came up about, will those poles be moved, or when might they be moved? So because of that, I just wanted to tell you what the last action of the council was. In 2016, there was an application put in for a TAP grant to move those poles and make everything underground. The proposed cost in 2016 was $185,000. And in talking with the property owner there, I basically said, unless we can ever get a grant to fund that activity, they're not likely to be moved in a long time. And if it's something that the council is still interested in trying to do, we can keep looking for some grants and to make this proposal again. But I just wanted to let you know that that has come up, the question about it. The landowner there in the corner is going to do some work. And basically, I discussed with him that if at some point in time we made another grant and we got the money, then the repairs of any work he might have done to the concrete or paving out front or anything else would be part of that project. So this is more an information item. 2016 was the last time we applied for any grant money on that project. Any discussion?
I have something I can technically fit in under this one. There's a light out between 512 and 514 West Main. It's completely dark down there every night. So that is about light poles on West Main.
You in the dark?
Yeah, after about 8 o'clock.
Okay. We'll check on it. Any questions about that project that was 2016?
No, I would just say that I think it would be a good thing if we could get a grant, because I know the Justice Center, when they built it, they matched our light poles around the square, and that's the only distance right there anywhere around with the old style, well, the normal style poles.
That is correct. Item 16 is an information item. Because the law has changed, I wanted to make sure the council knew it. Filing date for the council had been in August, but the legislature has changed the filing date to run for city council, and that filing date is on June the 2nd. So if you plan on running for council, or you're encouraging someone else to run or whatever, those papers need to be into the county clerk's office by June the 2nd. And since the courthouse is supposedly reopening next week, if you haven't got them, you can get in to get your papers to file. Any questions about that? Item 17 is a request for a special meeting for Thursday, May the 28th at 6 p.m. We need to present the budget, and as the last week is gone, we have other items on that we need to try to deal with at that meeting in order to prepare an agenda. And we are requesting your approval for a meeting May the 28th. What we will do, if you approve that, since the regulations are changing, we will discuss with everyone about the possibility of having a meeting, in-person meeting, and we'd need to move it probably over to the Welcome Center in order to have room for us to space out. But we'll discuss that with you later, depending on what you may want to do. So is there a motion to have a special meeting for Thursday, May the 28th at 6 p.m.?
So moved.
Moved by Michael.
I may be running a little bit late because I got to have my wife get blood work at 4 o'clock. I think I should be back. I don't know.
Okay. We can move it to later if you think it needs to be.
I'll let you know. I'll see what the girls gonna do.
Okay. Jeff, do we just need to move to have a meeting and then set the time later?
I would say go ahead and move. I would say go ahead and set it for the time and everything now.
Okay.
What about 7?
7, it's fine with me. Does 7 suit everybody else? Michael, I think you moved the motion. Can we make the motion at 7?
So amended.
All right. All right, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded that we have a special meeting Thursday, May the 28th at 7 p.m. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of that motion? No, wait a minute. I can't do that. Laura?
Michael Case,
Aye.
Doug Gibson,
Aye.
Danny Laster,
Aye.
Frank McReynolds,
Aye.
George Orr.
Aye.
Okay, item 18 is just some updates. Class of 2020 banner. We have been attempting in City Hall to get a banner here that would congratulate the class of 2020 from City Hall with a quote on it that says, "Nothing we do changes the past, but everything we do changes the future." We're still working, trying to get that here before next Friday's graduation, but we're having problems with delivery and getting things on time. So we're still working to try to get that done. Because we want to be among everyone else congratulating this class during this unusual year. Item B, historic courthouse work. Michael has brought up and others have pointed out the work that needs to be done at the historic courthouse. We have got a proposal about painting and cleaning and doing some other work, but since this is a proposal that would need to be worked with the fiscal court, I will discuss this with the county judge to see if we can proceed with getting some work done to get it cleaned up and painted and windows sealed and some other work that needs to be done. But we wanted you to know that that project is a project we have been gathering information on. Item C, I want to express here and let the council know that we certainly appreciate Bill and Hilda Bingham family. As you know, they have our welcome signs out on the 4-lane highway 68 were placed there by that family in honor of their parents. And they have recently had those signs repainted. And I know we've checked on them. The lights weren't working. We checked on them. I'm not sure they're working yet, but they were supposed to be checked on to make the R. But I want here to publicly thank the Bingham family for not only their donation from years back, but maintaining those signs. And if you see them, thank them, please. Item D, just a quick update on DD Glass Door Up. They have been moving from the building there, the Marsh building behind the Dairy Queen, over to the old tile building. And I'm not sure they've completely moved yet, but they're in the process of moving. Also to let you know that DD Glass had requested some assistance from the city and the county with the loading dock area, and the city and county worked together to expand some area on the loading dock with some gravel and some other things in order to get them in their building. And the initial plans with DD Glass is still, as they go through their move, to add some additional employees. They are working with the state, and we've been in contact with some of them about some possibility of signing some papers and helping them get some grants and aid in that development. And I wanted you to be aware of that. And item E, park update. Wanted you to know that the new scoreboard in the small park over by the senior center has been up. The county put that in. And the park will be opening in June. I forgot the exact date. I think it's the 11th or 15th, somewhere around the middle of June, for trying to get soccer leagues and little league started. And along with the work there, the county has applied for a grant, the similar grants we've applied for before, for funding for the soccer field that's been discussed down at the diecast property. And at some point in the near future, as a council, we'll need to talk about some of the requests and things being made by for park expansion. We did submit a letter of support for the project. And as most things with grants, writing letters of support and getting the grant is one thing. Then we got to worry about how to meet the obligations and other things once we get it. Are there any questions concerning any of those items? Well, if not, we thank you all for joining with us tonight. We thank the public that may be watching live or may be watching this from a tape. This was a special meeting. It is our regular meeting date. We meet on the second Thursday of each month. And not sure, but depending on the way things are opening up, we may be meeting in person by the time we have our June meeting. If there's no other items that we've got on the agenda, and there's not, is there a motion to adjourn?
One question concerning mowing the right of ways. Are we going to have any manpower to mow our right of ways this summer? Manpower?
At
Some
this-
bad.
At this point, Mr. Frank, we're not sure what kind of help we're going to have. A lot of our right of ways and things that mowing that was done was being done by the crew that was coming out of the jail. And I don't know when they may open that up, which may still be a while. We have also gone through several of the places that we were once mowing. Our list of mowing was getting longer and longer and longer. And we were having people ask why we were mowing some places and weren't mowing theirs. So we have cut back on some mowing, but our biggest problem now is the people that we had mowing, we don't have access to them.
So we're not going to have funding for temporary work, doing temporary workers during the summer, like we have had in the last couple of years.
Well, we're going to have a recommendation on that when it relates to the budget, but in general, what money we have spent on part-time help, it's our belief that we'd be better off not using the part-time help the way we were using it, and to try to meet some needs some other way. But that will be an item we can discuss when we talk about the budget.
Okay. I just brought that up because there's a right of way right across from me that some of the weeds are like up to 3 feet high right now, but the property owner is doing his part, but he's been leaving the right of ways.
Well, there's one misunderstanding about right of ways, Mr. Frank.
And I know I do my own. At the first 10 or 15 feet of my yard is a right of way, but I've been doing it for years.
Well, what people believe, Mr. Frank, is that the right of way belongs to us. It does not.
It doesn't.
Property belongs to the property owner. The right of way just simply allows us to have access to do water work or other type of work. And it is really not the responsibility of the city to mow right of ways.
If I do mine would be 6 feet high now. But I've been doing mine for all of my life.
So it's an area we need to talk about. And if you believe there's some odd places we need to be mowing, then we need to identify them. But right of ways is not our responsibility because the right of way belongs to the landowner.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that very well, but I know there's some property right in front of my house. I'm getting personal like Michael's. He said he was in the dark, so, but.
Well, that's a little down the road from me, but.
but anyway, I just want to bring that up. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, we can discuss our mowing areas and it gets brought up periodically about what we're mowing and not mowing, but.
Right. Okay, thank you.
It's something we can have further discussion on later.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Danny, second by Michael to adjourn. I'm not going to have you call the roll, Laura. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Ah.
That's unanimous.
Yeah, we're adjourned. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. Y'all be safe out there.
Y'all be careful.